There's one skill that's a great predictor whether or not you're going to become a great artist, and that skill is playfulness within challenges. And this is a skill that you can develop. It's not a natural talent that you need to have since birth. And the reason I know this is because I'm working on this skill myself. This is a skill that I did not have in my 20s. And now that I'm developing this skill, learning new things becomes so much easier. Exploring different sides of my creativity becomes easier. Learning new technical skills becomes so much easier because if taking on a challenge and like going into the unknown feels like playfulness, feels like adventure, it's so much easier to discover new things and grow as an artist, both creatively and technically. It's not just about technical ability. If you are able to explore the unknown sides of your creative spirit, the unknown sides of your mind, then there's so much more to be discovered, which is so energizing for the art practice, especially if you see it as going out into the playground and just having fun with it. That curiosity, that freedom makes it so much easier to grow as a creative. So how do we practice this skill? First step is to pick a very specific challenge, either creatively or technically. That way we know what failure would look like. We're trying to grapple with our relationship with failure. We're trying to overcome our fears of failure. Therefore, we need to pick a specific challenge. That way it becomes crystal clear to us what failure would look like. Step 2 is to jump into the challenge and then pay very close attention to those inner voices. So go through the challenge and then notice all the judgments that come into your mind. Notice how you're thinking about the challenge. When you make a mistake, what does that actually feel like? Reframe those thoughts. We want to get to a place where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth. Mistakes do not have to be a place of negative energy, right? Like you can actually feel really good about your mistakes if you see it as an opportunity to clarify your drawing skills. So if you put learning and growth above outputting good art, then it'll be so much easier to like see your mistakes this way. If you can just reframe your mind one repetition at a time, right? One thought at a time, eventually you'll get to a place where you don't see mistakes as a problem. Mistakes become an opportunity and they become almost like a gift because they reveal to you where you need to work harder and like what you need to improve on. So that is how you can work through this and like develop this skill of finding playfulness within challenges. For most of us, we have a very negative relationship with mistakes. And I think a big part of that is how we're raised. In school, you get bad marks if you make mistakes, but that is not how the real world works, right? The way to learn a new skill is to do repetitions where errors are revealed and then fixing those habits so that you can develop a better habit around that specific skill. So you need to remove some of the shame, some of the judgment, because it's unnecessary. Do you really expect yourself to be good at this thing that you haven't practiced, right? Like, do you really expect yourself to be naturally talented at something that you haven't explored before? That makes zero sense. If you sit down and actually write that down, it makes so much sense logically, but emotionally, we're trained to think of our mistakes as real problems that need to be hidden away, and they need, like, you almost convince yourself that you need to have a negative experience to really learn the lesson, which isn't true. You can see a mistake, acknowledge the changes that need to be made without having any negative feelings rise up in your body. You can actually have a positive feeling rise up in your body if you think of it as an opportunity to grow and learn, and that like puts growth and learning above outputting great art. One thing that helps me a ton is that I treat every drawing as if it's an experiment. So instead of a drawing having to be the final outcome, it's just one experiment in a line of experiments. That way it's easier to be playful. I'm just trying things, I'm exploring, and I put a lot less pressure on this drawing being the final drawing. If you treat each drawing as if there's a next drawing coming after it, which is always true, then it's so much easier to take the pressure off yourself to like perform well on a single drawing. I think this desire to perform well on each drawing is a hindrance to growth. If you just treat it as an experiment to like explore the page and find yourself within it, it's so much easier to like take those mistakes and ways that you want to improve your work and not take it so personally because you know it's an experiment. The whole point of an experiment is to find those mistakes. So if you can reframe your mind around this and do that reframing over and over again, right? Like it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over small repetitions. Take on a drawing, do work on it. When those judgmental voices come into your head, reframe them. Be like, no. That mistake isn't a problem. We do not have to feel negatively about this. We can think of it as a gift. Okay, here we're learning a new thing. Oh, we're discovering that, like, actually, I don't like drawing faces this way. I feel like I express myself better when I draw faces this way. Well, that's good information to have. This is why this experiment was a good thing. You could do a bad drawing and feel tremendous joy and creative expression through it because you're discovering new things about yourself. bad drawings don't necessarily have to come with bad feelings, right? Like you can make tons of ugly drawings and feel great about them because your relationship with the drawing is ultimately what matters. This can be especially hard to learn if you are a perfectionist, but it's even more important for you to learn this skill if you are a perfectionist. I struggled with perfectionism throughout my 20s and it helped me back in so many ways. So now that I'm practicing this skill, I'm actually actively reframing my mind. My artistic growth, both technically and creatively, is immense. And that is why I'm making this video, because I noticed that as I was recording beginner drawing exercises for the beginner's toolkit, I kept talking about like developing your playfulness for the exercise, develop your curiosity and love for it. And I kept saying it over and over again. And it made me realize that I think that's the ultimate skill to have. If you can approach your technical skills from a playful attitude, it's so much easier to learn. And I'm learning so much faster now that I see challenges as a space to play around and have fun. There's obviously discomfort between the space of not knowing and knowing, right? Which is learning, is basically being in the space between not knowing and knowing. There's uncomfortable feelings there. And I understand why a lot of us feel that way, that we like don't want to be there. We want to get to knowing. But if you want to improve and grow and really experience all that life has to offer, you just have to get used to that discomfort. And you almost want to take that discomfort as a sign that you're exploring something new. So if we can see that discomfort differently, we reframe it as a playful space, as an opportunity to discover new things, then suddenly that discomfort isn't a problem anymore. And it's a good sign that we're heading down the right path. You know, it's almost like you're going on an adventure and you know you're on the right road. If you feel some discomfort, if there's a little bit of like, I'm pushing against things here and this feels weird, like there's monsters on the road that I have to take on. But I know that this path is valuable because these monsters are here. These monsters are guarding this treasure. Ultimately, you know, the lessons that you're learning are the treasure. So like, if you're taking on these monsters on the way, it's a good sign that you're actually on the right path. If you're on a path but there's no one guarding it, then like, what are you chasing? There's nothing here, nothing to be seen, right? So that's one way of thinking about this. Try to remember that the discomfort is actually an opportunity to grow and learn. If you are someone who struggles with your expectations, if you are a perfectionist, if you are someone who judges yourself heavily every time you make a mistake and you don't do a good drawing, I recommend that you sit down and write those expectations out. Really spend time with those mental models that you have in your mind because you can change them. Once you become aware of them, you can rewrite them and be a little bit more deliberate about how you approach your mind. And if you want help with that, check out the Inner Artist course where we start off the course grappling with our expectations, because I know that for a lot of you, if you want to do creative projects, perfectionism is usually the thing that gets in the way. That's why I start off that course with grappling with our expectations, because I know that like if I want you to get to your creative expression, getting over that hump of like, how do I deal with my perfectionistic tendencies is one of the most important things. So we start out that course that way. If you have the fundamentals bundle, make sure to check out the beginner's toolkit because I've added a bunch of beginner exercises to it and I'm going to add a bunch more. I think we're up to like 28 different exercises. That bundle is growing quite quickly because there's so many more exercises that I want to add to it. Because as I'm developing my playfulness for these technical skills, I'm also finding new exercises that are fun to do. So I want to share so many more with you. So go check that out in the description below if you want to go grab that. And if you already have it, make sure to check that out. I'll be adding a lot more to it. So stay updated, go keep checking it out, and I'll see you in the next lesson when you are ready.